So check this out. What I'm going to do is I have the statue layer there. Of course, I can see that I have the bevel and emboss applied there, and I did have an inner shadow applied there as well. What I want to do, though, is I want to remove all of these effects. So check this out. I'm going to right-click on the statue layer. First of all, we have copy layer style. This is really handy if you want to take a layer style, something you've applied to one layer, and you want to go and apply it to another layer. I use this guy a lot. Think of like web buttons, maybe a navigation menu, something like that. And you want to apply the same effect to the entire menu or to some other buttons inside your web layout that you're building, right? Or maybe drop shadows on text, or who the heck knows. Then we have paste layer style, so I could copy the layer style and then right-click on another layer and paste it. But the one that we're after is clear layer style. Go ahead and choose that guy. And what that does is that wipes out, obviously, the effects that we've applied to our statue layer. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and apply a different layer style or set of effects to my statue. So once again, I'm going to double click on this guy into the layer style dialog box. And I'm going to head all the way down to stroke over on the left-hand side. Now, make sure that you not only check stroke, but you also select him as well, because we want access to his settings here. And if you're not sure what a stroke is essentially an outline all the way around your object. Okay? Notice, of course, that only the statue is being affected. In other words, only the pixels on the selected layer are being affected. What we can do here is we can adjust the thickness of the stroke by adjusting the size slider. We can set that guy if we want. We can set the position. Now this guy's interesting. The default is outside. So in other words, the stroke is being applied on the outside edge of my object. I could go inside to get the stroke now applied on the inside of the object, something like this. Or I could say center. In other words, it's going to ride the edge between the inside and the outside of the object. The other thing that I can do is I can change the color of my stroke. Notice the default is black. So what I'm going to do is this little color swatch here, I'm going to go ahead and single click on them. And that brings me into Photoshop's color picker. First of all, inside the color picker, we have this vertical hue slider, so I can go and choose the hue that I want to go after, perhaps into blues or maybe into greens or yellows or what have you. And then inside this main area here, I can choose the specific color that I'd like to use for my stroke in this case. And as you can see, as I'm selecting colors, you can see that stroke updating automatically, right, inside the composition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for pure white, way up in the top left corner, something like this. And then I'll go ahead and click on OK. And I think I'm going to reduce down the thickness of my outline. I'm not exactly sure where I want to wind up. Maybe around 2 or maybe 3, something like that I think should look okay. You might want to fiddle with your positioning, maybe on the inside or the outside. Perhaps I'll go inside and then I'll try and increase the thickness of my outline, maybe up to about 5, maybe something like that, right? Or again, I could go outside and fiddle around. Again, there's no hard and fast rules here. It's really more about experimentation inside the Photoshop laboratory, right? That looks good to me. I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Of course, I see the effects now showing up inside the layers panel. And I think what I want to do is I want to apply a layer effect to the text, Medieval Dinner, this info down here. And what's interesting to note is we're going to apply a layer effect to a smart object. So just because the text layer is a smart object doesn't mean we can't apply special effects to it. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the text layer's right-hand side. There we go, into the layer style dialog box. And what I want to do is I want to change this guy's color. So I'm going to use a layer effect that I use quite a lot, actually, which is called Color Overlay. He's right here. So we had black text, and usually I'm not really sure what color I'll wind up with for my text, for instance. So I'll just set it to black, and then I'll come back later, and I'll use my Color Overlay to go and set this guy. Now check this out. I'm going to go and change this guy's color. I've clicked on Color Overlay as well, so I get the Color Overlay options inside the Layer Style dialog box. We have blending mode and opacity, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And then we also have the color swatch as well. So I'm going to click on his color swatch back into Photoshop's color picker window. And of course, again, I can go and choose a color that I'd like to use for this guy. One neat thing that you can do with the color picker window when you're going and selecting colors is you can actually bring your cursor outside of the color picker window. your cursor changes to an eyedropper, and then you can go and sample color throughout your image, right? So maybe I want to copy the blue in the sky and I want to use that for the text, something like this. Or maybe the gray out of the statue, something like that. Really, whatever you want. It's pretty cool stuff. So I think I want to go with a blue, something like this. But maybe what I'll do is I'll adjust this blue just a little bit to maybe make it a little bit brighter or a little bit lighter, maybe something like that. Okay, go ahead and click on OK. And then maybe to wrap things up, I'll go and throw on a stroke onto my text. There we go, something like this. And again, I'll go and sample a color out of my image, maybe something like that. There we are. That looks pretty cool. You can go and adjust any of the settings that you want. It's really entirely up to you. I'll leave it up to you to experiment and fiddle around and have fun setting up your composition using your layer styles.